On the morning of October 14, 2023, in the quiet suburban town of Plainfield, Illinois, a horrifying act of violence shattered the life of a family and sent shockwaves across the nation. 6-year-old Wadaya Al-Fayoumeh, a joyful and beloved Palestinian-American boy, was brutally stabbed 26 times inside his home by his family's landlord, 71-year-old Joseph Chouba. His mother, 32-year-old Hanan Shahin, was also viciously attacked, stabbed over a dozen times, but survived and, despite her critical injuries, managed to dial 911. First responders arrived to a gruesome scene: a child barely alive, a mother bleeding profusely, and a house soaked in trauma. Wadaya was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, he could not be saved. The motive behind the killing was as shocking as the act itself. Chouba, who had rented the lower level of his home to the family for years and had known them personally, had become radicalized by misinformation, conspiracy theories, and hate-driven media narratives linked to the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict. According to prosecutors and law enforcement, he had been consuming a steady stream of Islamophobic and anti-Palestinian rhetoric from fringe sources in the days leading up to the attack. Despite Hanan's reassurances that she and her son posed no threat and simply wanted to live in peace, Chouba became convinced, without evidence, that they were somehow part of a larger plot to harm him. Investigators described how fear turned to suspicion, suspicion turned to hatred, and hatred ultimately turned into violence. On that fateful morning, Chouba retrieved a military-style knife and stormed into the family's living area. What followed was a frenzied and deliberate assault. The brutality, especially the 26 stab wounds inflicted on a 6-year-old child, stunned even the most seasoned first responders. Chouba later admitted to police that he committed the attacks, but insisted falsely that he had acted in self-defense. There was no justification, no provocation, only a deadly cocktail of paranoia and hate. The murder was immediately classified as a hate crime. National outrage followed swiftly. Candlelight vigils were held across Illinois and beyond as communities united in mourning. Civil rights organizations, including the Council on American-Islamic Relations (CAIR), condemned the murder as part of a disturbing rise in anti-Muslim hate crimes. Across the U.S., President Joe Biden issued a solemn statement, calling the killing a horrific act of hate and urging Americans to reject Islamophobia and violence. As public pressure mounted, the case moved quickly through the legal system. Chouba was charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and 2 counts of hate crimes. At trial in February 2025, the prosecution laid out a powerful and deeply disturbing case, presenting evidence of Chouba's growing radicalization and the deliberate nature of the attack. Shahin bravely testified, recounting in harrowing detail how the man she once trusted turned on her and her child with unimaginable violence. Forensic evidence confirmed the brutality of the crime. The jury needed little time to reach a verdict, guilty on all counts. On May 2, 2025, Chouba was sentenced to 53 years in prison, effectively a life sentence for the aging man. For Wadaya's family, no sentence could truly bring justice. No outcome could fill the void left by the loss of a joyful, kind-hearted boy who loved soccer, school, and spending time with his friends. His only crime in the eyes of his killer was being Muslim and Palestinian. Wadaya's murder was not only a personal tragedy, it became a national symbol of the devastating consequences of hate and disinformation. It exposed how dangerous rhetoric can radicalize individuals, even in the most ordinary settings, and it highlighted the urgent need for stronger hate crime prevention, better public education on religious tolerance, and community vigilance against extremism. Today, Wadaya's memory lives on in murals, memorials, and the words of his grieving mother, who has vowed to honor her son by advocating for peace and justice. His story is a warning, a reminder that fear can be weaponized, that ignorance can turn deadly, and that even a quiet suburban neighborhood is not immune to the reach of hate. But it is also a call to action, to protect the vulnerable, to speak out against bigotry in all its forms, and to build a future where no child has to fear for their life because of their identity.